Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And here is our non-spoiler review for Blue Bayou. Blue Bayou is written and directed by Justin Chon and focuses on Antonio LeBlanc, who is a Korean adoptee raised in a small town in Louisiana. While trying to make a better life for him and his family, he soon learned that he could be deported from the only country he's ever called home. You know, it's interesting, we watch a lot of trailers here over at the Movie Couple household, and Blue Bayou was actually a trailer that I didn't sought out to watch, didn't come across, but I was aware of the movie and I just knew that I wanted to watch the film because of the word of mouth that had built up around it. A lot of my journalist friends had seen it and it was a very positive review and made me want to go see it, and then hearing about the plot too, and I was like, that's a really interesting story. I love to hear that because it can be so relatable for so many people on so many levels.
Yeah, and I have to admit that for me, I mean, I didn't even know about it until Wendy had mentioned it. Hey, we got a screener for this, so why don't we sit down and watch it? And she told me just a little bit about it, and I have to admit, this is a very relevant story, a very relevant movie to actually put out this day and age, and I was really impressed by it.
Yeah, it focuses on Justin Chon's character, who is the writer and director for this film, and his character, Antonio LeBlanc, is a Korean adoptee, basically was raised, not born in Korea, but raised, adopted, obviously, raised in Louisiana, so he's got, the southern accent. He's married to Kathy, played by Alicia Vikander. They have his stepdaughter, which is her kid, but they're also pregnant with their kid, so, he is a bit rough around the edges, but he's a kind person. He means well, and he will do anything to help provide a better life for his family, which is, as you watch the story, the man does come across a lot of struggles, and he's definitely got a strong will. Anything for the family he will go through, but he does have a bit of a colorful past in order to make some money, so he did a couple of not so legal things, so that is on his record. So inevitably when something happened, he got arrested. Instead of being able to post bail, they realized that that he is illegal. Essentially, the adoption was not finalized because there was some paperwork that was never filed, even though he had been in the country for many, many years. And he was
over
facing
30
deportation.
years.
It's absolutely insane, and we know that in real life this legitimately does happen. Justin Chon did a lot of research, spoke to a lot of adoptees that either have been deported or is facing deportation. And also, it's a movie like this, from an Asian American writer-director, and this is why we say representation matters. And I look at this movie and I think about a little bit about my situation. I am an immigrant. I was born and raised in Taiwan. I grew up in Taiwan. I moved to the States for school. I do have my citizenship. I do have my certification, or certificate, I guess, certification. I have a U.S. passport and pay taxes and all that stuff. Everything is obviously legal, and my family had and the people in my life have made sure that everything, I's are dotted, T's are crossed. But that's not to say that I don't worry about things like that.
Yeah, I mean, how strong
again.
is that little piece of paper when it really does come down to it? I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the United States who are like, yeah, I don't have to worry about getting deported because they've been here for 30
And
years,
that's what he
their whole
thought.
life. And yeah.
And you don't know
it's
that.
going to hit home. And it also brings up a topic that not that many people really know about. Honestly, I did not know that back in the 80s and 90s, there were tens of thousands of kids that were illegally adopted, and they could get deported anytime.
Yeah.
That, ICE could just be like, oh, you know what? There's this loophole that the paperwork wasn't completely filled out, so we're going to deport you now.
Yeah, and they touch a little bit of that on that in the film as well. And this movie also focuses on, yes, the main story is that we do follow Antonio and his story and the struggles and how his family deals with said struggles, but it also explores the relationship between him and his wife, the relationship between him and his stepdaughter, and the struggles and the the changes that he wants to make to welcome the new baby, how certain people treat him, even though he grew up in Louisiana. You know, he is an American. They do treat him different because he doesn't look American. So there's a little bit of that touch on the movie.
And the fact that he doesn't really belong anywhere here in America, the only land that he's ever really known, treat him like a foreigner. So where are you from? Oh, I'm from Louisiana. No, well, where are you really from? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then if he gets deported back to Korea, it's like, oh, well, he's not really one of us. He's an American.
He doesn't even speak the language because he grew up in Louisiana, so he doesn't have family there, and if he does, he wouldn't know how to get a hold of them. Where does he live? So there's a lot, you know, the sense of where do you belong? Where do you go? Because you're so in between. And while I enjoy this movie so much, and the cinematography is very raw, and it definitely draws you in, though I do feel like they touched on they use certain imageries and scenes, in my opinion, just a little bit too much. I felt it was a little really repetitive, and it kind of disrupted the pacing of the film, the energy of the film, where we kept on going back to the moment. The payoff was there. You saw, you know, how they used it later on in the movie. But I really did feel that some of the imageries, we didn't need a repeat shot, that they didn't have to keep putting them in the film. Aside from loving Justin Chon in the film, I absolutely loved Alicia Vikander in this film. So much. And it's, you know, the last film I saw her in, I want to say, was Tomb Raider. Obviously a very different film. This one, she gets you emotionally. It reminds me of why I began following her career and her films in the first place. She draws you in. There's all the emotion. Oh, and speaking of, you know, having many different aspects of different stories in this film, we also meet a young lady named Parker that has a lot to do with Antonio's path through the film. So that I just want to note that as well, because I actually enjoyed all of their interactions and scenes a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something they really did build on very well, is his relationship with his stepdaughter, and just how he is struggling to try to get by, and how sometimes he doesn't. He's trying to do the right thing, but you know, when you don't have many options, you know, sometimes you have to go back to what you relied on before.
Yes.
And this is just a story that needs to be told.
Yes.
You know, because I'm sure there are so many people that can watch this movie and be like, oh my gosh, that is a part of me. I went through something like that in my life. How many dreamers are there that are like, I haven't lived anywhere else. I am an American, but yet everyone sees me as a foreigner. I could get deported. And it's just one of those things that more and more people need to be educated to.
Yeah, so this film is really fantastic. It's raw. It's an emotional ride. The third act, if you survive through the first two acts without tears, the third act's gonna get you.
Oh yeah,
because we were doing real good, and I was like, I'm gonna be okay, and I was just a really big mess by the very end. But
you're going to need a box of tissues.
Yeah, you really do. If you feel comfortable going to the theater, this is something you should be watching this weekend. Hey, almost forgot to do our rating. So for this, I am a big fan of the film. I think the story should be watched or should be told. So I'm going to give this Catch It opening night.
I liked it too. I really think it's an important film to see. It talks about a very good subject matter that just is very important these days for us to listen to and hear other sides of the stories. I'm going to give it a check it out.
All right, you guys, those are our ratings. The film, again, is open in theaters right now. Blue Bayou, go ahead and check it out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more reviews just like this one. And don't forget to like and share, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.